It must be time to see who in Detroit is possibly being measured for an orange jumpsuit. The people at General Motors, those who decided they would do whatever it took to keep low about a faulty ignition switch that eventually cost people their lives, haven't seemed too worried about the possibility of going to jail over their inaction. That, however, may change. Time to put the pedal to the metal once again with nationally recognized automotive industry expert who may or may not agree with me that the 1969 Dodge Charger RT was the greatest American muscle car ever made. Lauren Fix joins us. Don't shake your head at me like that. Don't do that.
You know what I have in my garage, and you know I don't agree.
I know, but I'm not going to get into it right now because that's an argument we're going to have at another time here. Because
we'll have that over a couple beers.
The greatest muscle car ever, hands down, 440. But then again, we'll move on. This hide no harm bill going after top executives is fascinating here. It's not in work yet. I mean, it's not something now, but it's something that lawmakers are looking at creating. Could this still come down and affect GM executives, or are we just looking at basically stopping people down the road?
Well, there's a lot of value to this. This is Senator Blumenthal and Senator Casey put together this 10-page act, which they've already submitted to Congress, so it's already on the dockets. That doesn't mean that it's going to pass. This is obviously a conversation to be had. But, you think about this, you think, wow, these guys could go to prison for everything that they've done. And you think about, wow, who's going to go to prison? You're going to send Mary Barra to prison? She didn't sign any ignition switch bills. Are you going to send, Ray DiGiorgio? Well, maybe, but, the thing is, the problem is, you got to remember, the people that are creating this act are the same people that bailed out GM. So does that mean that the cars are Stephen Ratner should go to jail? Because, he was there. He knew about it, but he didn't do anything. He knew about the GM nods. This is a whole culture that needs to be changed. And the fact that you're going to pick one executive that you have 24 hours to declare the fact that you have a serious problem with some product. It doesn't necessarily have to be automotive. It could be food. It could be a stroller. It could be anything. And if not, they're going to take an executive to jail. Okay, that one should be an interesting one to hold up in court. I honestly don't think this is going to go through. It may be on the books, but there's a lot of laws in the books, and you know that they know how to skirt them. That's why they have a team of attorneys, which is how we got here to begin with.
Well, here we have the Hide No Harm Act, in case anybody hasn't seen it yet. It would deliver prison terms of up to 5 years and fines for corporate executives who know about a given product's defects and their potential to do harm, yet do nothing to warn their consumer base or employees. However, let me point out, and again, I'm not a lawyer, I just play one on TV, that there's a loophole here because it says that there be actual knowledge of an offense. So you would have to prove there's actual knowledge, which means, again, we're still getting down to the fact who knew, what did they know, when did they know, and who's willing to roll over and basically say that somebody was guilty.
It sounds like an IRS lowest learner kind of situation.
It does.
It sounds like it's easy to go, I didn't get it, I didn't get the email, I never read the email, maybe it was sent to me. You know how this goes. This is pretty typical of government. They put these great laws into place, and sometimes too many of them, like you can't carry an ice cream in your back pocket while walking down the streets of Kansas City. It's like, the fact is they're really hard to enforce, and I think that some of these laws are in place, obviously, to protect consumers, and I get that, and I like that. However, what I don't like is the fact that the people that are writing the laws are the ones that are going to find ways to get around it, and I still think that Congress themselves have done enough things that are illegal that they need to go to prison in many cases, and they find ways to get around it too. So is it just, we're doing this for semantics? Really?
Lauren, would this make anybody at General Motors or anybody in the American or foreign automobile industry shaking their boots if this got passed?
Not a chance. I don't think so. I really don't. I think they'll look at it, they'll go, okay, we'll let the legal department know about it. Let's be aware that you exclude the executives that could potentially know about a problem. That's all that's going to happen, is you're just going to cause no communication between the staff and the executives. That's what it sounds like to me. There'll be a way around it. There always is.
All right, here we go now. Let's get back to EPA numbers here in mile per gallon ratings, because I think what I found here, which really was very interesting in automotive news, where it basically put this down to tax. Predicting consumer fuel economy is basically impossible anyway. So everybody goes and they buy these numbers and they look here, this is what it's EPA rated. Matter of fact, there's even a consideration here that maybe the EPA should let Consumer Reports do all their testing for them. That's how off it is.
Well, it would certainly be more accurate if Consumer Reports did it. But I think one of the things that's important to note is you have to remember when the EPA gets their vehicles, they test it with pure gasoline, which is E0, means no ethanol. When you and I buy gasoline at the pump, it has 10% ethanol. You can buy 15% ethanol, you can buy 85% ethanol, which has 30% less energy per gallon. So that means your fuel economy is going to be 30% less. So how is it possible that the number that's on the window sticker known as a Monroney is really going to be accurate? And here's also something that's interesting. Trucks, you're talking about like half-ton trucks and larger, there is no window sticker. It's not required by law. So they can say whatever number they want their truck to get. So, I mean, the problem is, then you've got the electric vehicles and the hybrids that say, we're getting 124 miles to the gallon. Well, that's awesome, but the fact is, you're plugging into the wall and you have other expenses and you're still on, road wear and tear. I mean, there's a lot of factors. It's so inaccurate now compared to what it used to be. And the fact is, let's be honest, how many of us have sat through the drive-thru waiting to get our Starbucks or McDonald's, or whatever you get, or you're dry cleaning, or waiting outside for your kids to come out of school, you're waiting outside the soccer game. We've all done it. We've all sat in our cars with our cars idling because it's too hot, too cold out, or just don't want to go in the store. So all that's not calculated into real-life numbers. And let's face it, I was just on the expressway driving from New York City all the way to Buffalo, and there was nobody, very few people driving 55 miles per hour. Most people are going faster, so your numbers are just going to be true.
Exactly. We just don't know. It's all just a guess anyway, so we'll continue to guess as we go along. Lauren, it's always a pleasure. We got a whole lot more to talk about. We're all out of time, though. Let's do it again next week, and we'll talk about that 1969 Dodge Charger, and if you don't have one in your driveway and if you don't have one in your garage, then stop with that right now. We'll have that fight another time. LaurenFix.com is the place to go ahead and check out the Car Coach on a regular basis. We thank her so much for joining us here today. There's her website. I heartily recommend it. Lauren's an old friend. We've known each other for a lot of years, and nobody really knows cars better. By the way, something else to point out, too. In case you missed it, another recall. Chrysler recalling Jeep Commanders and Jeep Grand Cherokees. It is the 2006-07 Jeep Commanders and the 2005-06 Jeep Grand Cherokees. We're talking almost 800,000 vehicles. And guess what? It's for an ignition switch problem. So here we go, all over again. And now you know a little bit more about what happens when you go look at those EPA ratings when you go to buy your next car, right? We thank Lauren for joining us. She'll be here again next week. On our return, the moment America lives for, snappy banter between yours truly and Steve Mulsberg as we prep for the jaunt to New York City. It's coming up next, right here on MidPoint.